Then one day somebody tagged, the company on Twitter, and then said, I'm going to commit suicide because my 20,000 refund is stuck, right? That is when reality hits you, right? That is what you're not building, you're building for the person, who you're supposed to service. You're not thinking about that person, right? That is when, I changed the entire perspective that the customer comes first.
Did you guys, any of you watch that Joe Rogan podcasts are very hard to watch. They are longer than Bollywood movies. But still that clip that was moving around on the internet where Mark Zuckerberg said, in 2025, mid-level engineers will be replaced by AI. Yeah, this is exactly what he said. In 2025, mid-level engineers at Meta will be replaced by AI systems, which is what many other companies are likely to replicate in the US. So the question is, how do you think engineering and product are going to evolve in the next 5 years, not only in terms of role and responsibility, but also in terms of team size and org structure, all of that? Because until recently, let's say until 2 years, 3 years back, the discussion was more like, is PM even needed? Most engineers don't like PMs. That's what I have seen around me. Nothing wrong with the PMs, but that is the case. I'm saying engineers always wished PM role doesn't exist anymore. But what is happening is very different. Now the engineering itself is getting disrupted, and none of us know exactly what it will look like a few years down the line. And given my own background in machine learning, and now into product and entrepreneurship, I can only hypothesize, right here. But I wanted to know how you guys think about it.
I can go small. I don't know about the size part of it. It's anyone's guess, but I feel it just changes you from one level to the higher leverage job. Just to give an example, in product management, writing a one-pager, writing a PRD document from some other inside of a BRD to PRD translation, that might be done by ChatGPT. But what is the user need? Customer will always say, I want a faster horse. You have to find the car for him. That translation of I'm assuming everyone's aware of this code, right? So this translation, it requires a higher leverage thinking, ability to understand the ecosystem, customer, tech, business, everything together. That part, I don't think is going away.
I can add a little bit of color. My hair is not that white, but 25 years in experience, right? So I think we should give a slightly different perspective. I get a lot of questions around, will you get replaced? I can get replaced even today, not by a GPT, but by another smarter person, right? So engineers built LLM to make their life a lot more easier. So Mark Zuckerberg might be right. Now let's go back and start with 2000. In 2000, many banks were still on mainframe. You still have systems run on mainframe, but the engineers are no longer coding in COBOL. We had a world of EJBs. I don't know if there are anyone who actually has written code in EJB. It was so complex. Then came microservices. Then came cloud. Then what happened? We decided to combine QA and Eng into one role, right? Within a few years, then came a new concept called DevOps or DevSecOps in today's world. So you are expected to do more with less. That means you have enough tooling around you. Deployment is taken care by AWS or GCP or Azure, depending on which platform you are a fan of. But no one talks about that. You still need to have that higher order thinking. And this has happened in the industry before, and it will continue to happen because, let me tell you, in the last 4 decades, and that's where IT has been predominantly been around, last 4 decades has been around digitization. You got from a manual, physical, inefficient world to a digital world. This is a quote from my CTO, whom I met just last week. So I felt compelled to share the same example here. The next few decades, there's so much inefficiency in the system that software is going to be around for a very, very long time, right? So in the next couple of decades, what will happen? You already have your banks. Most of the banks are on IT systems. You have a portal, you have a mobile app, you have ATMs. So what will you do? You will become smarter. The way to become smarter is using AI, right? Similarly, you've got your retail checkout apps, you have n number of apps which you can think of. All these retail apps will become smarter about who you are, what kind of product are you going to wish, and are you going to deliver. They'll keep their inventory smarter. It's our natural evolution of humankind to be more efficient as a tribe, right? So AI plays a role. That's not going to make you, obsolete. But if you are not willing to learn and adapt, definitely you're going to become obsolete.
There is one thing that is very common across people I find to be at a stage where I consider them to be doing really, really well. Basically, what I mean here is for people who have spent 10, 15 years in the industry, and the kind of, just so that you guys know, majority of the instructors who teach on Airtribe, they have 10 to 12 years of experience on average. So they are very senior people, and founders handpick them to this day. It's one of the core responsibilities I have. And one common thing I have seen across them, there is one particular project, one particular product feature or product that they were responsible for that completely changed their trajectory. Some people who are successful, thankfully, they are mostly humble. That's something I also learned in my career, that contrary to what many people believe early in their career, actually more successful people they tend to be very, very humble. My question here is, what was that project for you? What was that project for you that completely changed the trajectory of your career? And why I'm asking this, by the way, you might wonder I ask questions for myself, but that's not the case. I am asking this because sometimes what happens, particularly when you are PM with 2, 3, 5 years of experience, and there are tons of opportunities in your company. Sometimes the opportunities come before you, sometimes it's given to somebody else. And there are ways to fight for what you think you deserve. So, but we don't know all the time whether we should take it up or not. So a very brief story around what was that project for you?
Maybe I can go first.
Yes.
Okay. I think the story that I would not remember, and I'm thanking my stars for getting me that opportunity, was launching QuickBooks Enterprise in the cloud way back in 2018 when I was in Intuit, right? So this came as a chance. The current CEO and the current CTO of Intuit happened to be in my skip level, and they were visiting Bangalore. We were pitching an idea. They said, do it. And we never expected that. And they said, launch in 90 days, right? This was launching an enterprise edition, connecting Salesforce, providing workflow. That means if you create an invoice, you give a discount to a customer, you need to get that approved by your manager and then do that. And the moment I have an opportunity in Salesforce, I would like that to feed into QuickBooks automatically. This is how large companies work. And we had to compete with the NetSuites and the SAP editions in mid-market to large enterprise spaces. So when we got into it, we did not have a product manager in India. And there was one person who was generally allocated to all the areas. So until then, I was a hardcore techie, right? I was a group manager. My focus was on how would it scale in AWS. Okay, I would negotiate with a PM. It's not that I would not understand business, but I would not get into the numbers that we were talking about. I would not ask questions around business. I would not get into the level of details. I would not be interested in, if we do this, will it even sell? So the 90 days where I had to work with 80 different teams around the world made me a lot different. I started appreciating the complexity in business. I started appreciating how much hypothesis and assumptions you'll have to take forward with a leap of faith, right? And our first release, for all you know, was not greatly successful. We launched the product, hardly around 20 customers used it, whereas our projection was around 500 enterprises would use it. We quickly pivoted, and thankfully, because I was involved early on, my architect was also involved early on, we would know that if this wouldn't work, we had put a extension point for us to pivot. So knowing that helped us save the day. And within another 45 days, we were able to launch. And I left in 2021, Intuit had $500 million business. So it was from 0 to $500 million business. And that's a product which is still available. I feel really proud of the opportunity. In this whole program, there were many business leaders who acted as my mentors. I would go and ask them about simple questions on finance. Like, I would not understand how would sales work? How would you give discount? How would you do business partnership with other companies like DocuSign, like Salesforce, etc. I learned a lot in that way. So that was truly a humbling and rewarding experience.
Very nice. So you said 90 days plus 45 days. 45 days for the pivot.
For the pivot.
And the pivot ended up working.
It ended up working and it was a huge success.
And when you say it changed your trajectory, was it in terms of learning or was it because it was on your resume?
I would actually say both.
No, obviously, I just want to know, whether did it really help you with the future roles?
Yeah. So when I moved from Intuit to PayPal, I set up the PayPal credit organization in India. I was employee number 0. The first interview was taken by their VP of PayPal credit from business side, because they did not believe in engineering, that you can actually set up a team in India, knowing the business. Right? So knowing the fintech side of it, for example, talking about your SaaS growth rate, what is your, CAC rate and all of that, helped me have a wonderful conversation that broke the ice. Similarly, my current role, I lead the enterprise cloud platform team in Atlassian. Even here, the past experience helped me, because in most of the roles, and once you become senior, you're going to have your engineering counterpart leader interview you. Similarly, the vice versa is also going to happen, because at certain level, you're going to have blurring boundaries.
Yes.
Right? And how do you know whether this person is fungible enough to learn is something that at various level you would analyze. So definitely that helped me. So definitely it has changed both trajectory, career, as well as my own personal interest.
Very nice.
So many of them, but what is the closest to my heart, which actually defined what kind of a product manager I wanted to be, is actually, this one incident which happened. So I think few years back, there was this, again, we were building some payment system and there was no refund, automated refund, right? There was no API. One of the banks, I'll not name which one, so did not have this refund API. As simple as that, right? Did not have a refund API. We had an SOP around it that, okay, we will do this kind of refund. And I was like, okay, let it be. At least I have a product which I was only focused on features, having a great product, which I'm proud of. And as he said also, right, put it on my resume, right? So I used to think like that. Then one day somebody tagged, the company on Twitter, and then said, I'm going to commit suicide because my 20,000 refund is stuck, right? That is when reality hits you, right? That is what you're not building, you're building for the person, who you're supposed to service. You're not thinking about that person, right? That is when, I changed the entire perspective that the customer comes first, right? You're solving a pain point for this customer. Think about the customer first before.
Was there a merchant who said that on Twitter?
The end user. Because the end user refund did not come, merchant was complaining, but everybody in the chain was just raising a ticket, right? It is a ticket for them. It is a Salesforce ticket. It is a customer ticket for them.
Support messages in India can be really scary, by the way.
Yeah, that's what basically, since then, I've been thinking about, what is the impact, we are getting into this. And that is where what I think changed my trajectory, I would say.
How did that change your trajectory?
So then I was not liked by my management and more by my users, right? That is also, I'm not generating revenue for them, but I'm helping my users. But yeah, I still have a job.
And it was at which company you said?
The same Pine Labs.
Pine Labs.
So before this, I was all with MNCs, right? Everything was like, okay, I'm far away from my users. I'm building something. Somebody will tell me, okay, great product. And that is not your users, right? Somebody's within the organization going to tell you. But, and this is an interesting story. This is my second time into Pine Labs, right? This is the first time when I was in Pine Labs, I was like frustrated to the hell cube. What is going on, right? It is crazy dynamic, in an organization. And as I said, right? I mean, $70 billion of money moving. There are things which are going to fail, right? But I mean, you need to have that speed and seriousness about. I mean, you're playing with people's money. That is what I brought me back again to Pine Labs.
Ashish, any
I was,
such story for you?
yeah, I was actually thinking.
These two are very unique.
Yeah, so I got a lot of time also to
This
think.
was life and death situation.
So sorry, mine won't be that drastic. And I was thinking, right? So the way at least I'm thinking, this product is very close to my heart. I'll give you some background behind that, right? So this is about my first stint at Flipkart. So it's my second stint right now. I'm talking about back in 2014.
Are all of you like that? With you in the
No.
US, right?
No, I've done twice Microsoft, twice Flipkart.
Even back then.
So I mean, okay, we can talk about that separately, but yes, the first thing back in Flipkart 2014, the context is never ever in Indian context anybody had done a sale event. Flipkart pioneered the big billion day. I was the one to be blamed for all the sorry emails, for all the things which happened, including the sorry email that Sachin Bini sent. I was the one proofreaded and all of that. So the whole concept started with almost a month ago. Bini came to a room, pulled a few folks. Yeah, we have to do a sale event. No name finalized, no nothing. 1 day, 5 day, nothing is finalized. Yes, China mein ye hota hai, America mein ye hota hai. The two examples everyone knows about, Singles Day and other one. Right? So yeah, Black Friday. Yes, that's the two names given.
Black Friday,
Figure out
Cyber Monday.
and figure out. I was an entry level junior PM1. Very, I would like got a month and a half in Flipkart. Because I was managing offers experience, I was told, yeah, this is you. So at least for me, the reason I picked this up is two primary reasons. It was very, very close to me from my heart perspective, because what we did in that month and a half. And second is, I learned the craft to a large extent. I started appreciating product management, a large part of that because what it meant for me was not only understand e-commerce as a domain, but to understand the end-to-end journey of what a sale event could look like. It was a nightmare. We slept in office for days to an extent and all of that, because if you pull it off in a month and a half or two, branding is not final. What kind of offer construct we'll run is not final. And back in 2014, not of many of you folks, I mean, I don't know how many of you have been working since then, app adoption is to take time. Today, an Android and iOS app gets adopted to 70-80% adoption in a month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending upon, of course, your TPC scenarios. But back then, Flipkart used to take 2 to 3 months. And never do a sale, right? So you have only maybe a couple of weeks to release an app, which will be ready. So you ship with contracts. So basically, that's where the tech understanding also comes from. You're shipping with contracts. Engineering not even started coding. You just and of course, contracts break later during integration. So a lot of that handling, a lot of what the experience will look like, what do the offers look like, working with the BD teams, the marketing team, the sales, leadership, because the PL is not finalized, what kinds of offers will run. We ran Rupee 1 offer. We ran so many, because yes, ideation phase started, first time sale event. And back in 14, yes, money was slightly more freer as compared to what it's free today. So yes, we learned Rupee. So the biggest learning was, it doesn't matter what kind of a product you're building, right? One biggest learning I have from that was, if you're going to disappoint more people than you're going to please, the product is a failure. For example, we ran Rupee 1 offers. If you can go back in time, we have a website called waybackmachine.org and go and read that day's escalations. Everybody felt we were doing a gimmick. No, we weren't. We had genuine laptops and TVs and mobiles and large items of Rupee 1. But the problem was, they were limited in quantity and solving for India. So while you pleased 1,000 people who got that Rupee 1, 1 million people fell out of stock. So what it made, while that 1,000 people loved it, 1 million hated you, the product is a failure. That's why we never do Rupee 1 anymore at Flipkart after that. We don't do one day sale events after that, because the biggest learning was that you cannot manage that higher tech spike of demand and traffic. It's linearly impossible to scale overnight and then manage the infrastructure cost forever, right? Now with AWS and all, it's slightly better, but so that's why stagger. We stagger different kinds of discounts, we stagger, because demand has to be managed that way from a scaling perspective. So lots and lots of those tech learning, business learnings, user learning for me came from that experience of building and figuring out what a big billion day looks like, including all the failures and sorry. I'm also very grateful and thankful to the then and even now Flipkart leadership to have that audacity of not penalizing you for the failure, but keeping you, ensuring that you're learning from it. Like, for example, I remember those horrific meetings with Sachin and Bini in the room. They're like, because we did the first big billion day, Our whole plan was we do multiple sales after that. BBD happened, first day failure, declared failure by we had to write a sorry email. Not sure how many of you saw that. Sachin Bini sent an official email to every customer saying sorry.
What had happened?
Every hour we were going down. We had double, triple digit issues, kind of issues. For example, I'll tell you, we sold TV rupee 1 by our mistake. Basically, we revamped our offer engine, and the two of previous offer engines, when you both collided, and a lot of those things happened as usual. So, a lot of business loss, customer loss, brand loss. Twitter, social media was flooded with these rupee 1, you're faking, you don't have a sale. Then lot of people were concurrently on the checkout step and now not able to buy. We didn't have a hold in the background. A lot of things were broken. So it was, in my mind, it's not a failure, but from a user lens, it was a failure because we displeased a lot more people than we pleased. So what was supposed to happen 2 weeks later, another sale supposed to happen. I remember late in the night, Sachin Bini like, show me what is going to do, what is going to work. So a lot of that iteration in the next 2 weeks, we figured out what we can do, what we cannot do. But today, Flipkart does a big billion day since then till date every year. We manage 10x the scale of what we managed back then. Majority of the learnings are from that one day. We had a fancy deck created after that of what to do, what not to do. And till date, that gets looked up and said, yeah, this you shouldn't do, this you should do. So while you can call it a failure from a business lens, what we wanted to achieve, but we achieved, right? We achieved the brand awareness. We achieved that people were crying, but at least there was a value. Okay, Flipkart did this. And since then, we've improved. I don't know how many of you shop on Big Billion Day now. We don't do as many issues and errors today that we did in back in 14. So for me, practically, the reason I like that, or for me, it was great learning, understanding domain, ecosystem, user, business, everything. And for the brand and the company to learn and evolve from there.